You guys asked for it, so here it is. Blade and Sorcery is a game all about using weapons and magic to kill your enemies. But what if you took more of a defensive route? Can you beat Blade and Sorcery with only a shield? Starting out, I wasn't sure which type of shield I wanted to go with. Bigger ones provide more defense against attacks, but smaller ones pack more of a punch and are easier to swing. So I got both, finally doing what you guys have said in dual wielding. After gearing up, I set the dungeon to the max length of difficulty and load in. Once again, I go straight to fighting, and I think this is going to be one of the most brutal challenges yet. These shields don't mess around, and with the internals mod, enemies a lot of the time just get knocked out and not killed, which means to finish off combat zones I need to smash their face in until they die, otherwise they'll get back up and keep fighting. I finished them off, tried to make a sick jump, then failed miserably, then realised I went the complete wrong direction and had to do the walk of shame back to where I came from. Moving forward through the dungeon, I thunderclap this lady and spare no time smashing people's faces in. It feels more similar to fists only than I expected. However, because I can't exactly grab people with my shields, it's a lot harder to finish people off. I've developed a strategy for doing a shields only run without taking much damage. First step is have a larger shield on your offhand and a small buckler on your dominant one. Think of it as the big shield is for defense and the small one is for offense. I go in with the left shield, bashing and knocking the weapon away, then come swinging in with the buckler to knock them over if they haven't been already. After that, once they're on the ground, I just go to town on their faces until it becomes tomato sauce and my shield looks like my face on my first birthday. Except, you know, red. I like to call this the windmill method. If an enemy is laying down, I get to use my very own personal perk point I unlocked when learning how to swim, and windmill my arms into their face until a fine mist is left. My health was starting to get low, and once again I found another healing potion. This time, it actually did its job and healed me. I'm not sure why in other runs it wasn't doing its job. One comment suggested it could have been a hitbox thing, but I don't know. Either way, this healing potion did its job like a Gatorade for a hangover. In this room I had to deal with a few enemies. They went down as per usual, but this one for some reason just didn't want to die. When enemies are knocked out but not killed, you can tell because they're still holding on to their weapons. When they die, a little death animation plays and they drop everything. This person specifically must have had a skull made of titanium because I kept hitting and hitting and hitting them over the head with my buckler until they eventually died. I'm not sure why this person was so tough. They took like 10 times more effort to kill than normal. I started to experiment with what type of shield I was using. I found a pretty snazzy looking one on an enemy that I took instead of my left larger shield. It worked pretty well and gave me a little more defense as it was a bit taller than the previous one. But I didn't want to just leave the other one behind, so it got to the point that my body was just covered in potential shields to use in every one of my holster slots. I reached a nice open area, took this guy by complete surprise, and started doing what I do best before deciding to do some parkour. I'm not sure what made me want to start playing Mirror's Edge VR, but it was pretty fun. Blade and Sorcery by far has the best climbing and parkour system in VR, which is strange because the game is about fighting. Also, quick side tangent, I'm going to start uploading the full uncut footage of all my challenges so you can see for yourself that I'm not cheating. I think this will be a good change so you, the viewer, know that I'm being legit and you get to see what kinds of strategies I'm using so you can either follow along or do better yourself. Now I've reached the final wave area, and this is where I realized that this has been the most physically exhausting challenge so far. Every single enemy required a ferocious amounts of hard swings to kill, and I was sweating like a priest in a daycare trying to finish everyone off. For the first time in forever, archers weren't actually too much of a pain. They were annoying because I had to run to them to kill them, but other than that, the shields gave me good protection against incoming arrows. Knights were also not too bad, as just like the fist-only challenge, they're much more susceptible to blunt force trauma, which is basically my specialty at this point. After a long and exhausting battle, I was wondering why the gates hadn't opened yet. I was pretty sure that everyone was dead, but it turns out that one of these bodies is actually in a coma and barely clinging on to life. This guy got back up, but I dealt with him quickly. The gates still weren't opening though. So I went through the process of going to each and every person on the ground and pommeling them until their insides became outsides. I also have a mod called Pressure, which makes it so I can choke people to death by squeezing the trigger on my controller when I grab them by the neck. This proved to be really useful, not because I used it to kill anyone, but because if someone is alive and I grab them, they make a sound like they're starting to get choked. So I used that to check who was alive, and it was this person who looked like they accidentally stuck their face in a blender. I blended their face a little more, and the gates opened. This challenge was a lot of fun. A bit easier than dagger only, but physically much more challenging. After this though, all upcoming videos are going to be real challenges. I'm going to beat the game with only a bow, only magic, using environmental objects only, and with only using kicks as my weapon. So this has been the grace period, a few easier challenges to get me warmed up enough to enter hell. So stay tuned for those upcoming videos. Thank you all so much for watching and for the recent insane growth on the channel. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Have a wonderful day.